Hello and welcome to another episode of Sips and Sets the podcast. Today, we are taking a dive inside the Thrive 365 Academy. Every week, the ladies inside the program will submit extra questions on top of their check-ins, and I definitely have accumulated a ton of those. So each week I am jumping on with them and answering some of these additional questions and just giving that extra bit of info that may make all the difference in terms of what they're going through and some of the additional questions that they have. So I thought it would be really helpful to share this with all of you guys listening here on the podcast as well, because sometimes we have those questions that might not get answered specifically, or we're kind of thinking like all this noise on the internet gets way too much and I don't know exactly what to be doing. So hopefully these give you guys a little bit of insight into what you can do for yourself and an insight into some of the questions we dive into each week inside the academy. So let's dive in. Ladies, welcome to another week of Team Talks. Okay, so this is where we dive into some of the additional questions that you guys will put in your weekly check-in forms or submit to me for the call, and then we answer them to give you that extra piece of information that you might be missing. And it's always great to have these additional conversations and just kind of dive deeper into some of the topics that might be front of mind for you or that we haven't gone over yet, or that maybe you're not there yet in that stage of your journey. So let's dive in. I really love some of these questions this week, a little bit different, but we're going to go over it and see if this helps you guys a little bit more on your journey. I feel like with health and fitness in general, it's awesome to keep learning always, obviously, but health and fitness is such a broad spectrum of endless learning. I love it. It's like you might learn the core foundations of things that you need for your goal. And then there's always the next thing. There's always the next thing. There's always a little thing we can tweak in different areas of health and fitness and mindset, which is what kind of we cover here in the program, right? So I love that. So if you are not yet tuning into these calls, make sure that you are or watch the replay, discuss it in the group in Telegram. And that way we can continue these conversations because I feel like they're so important on top of everything you guys are learning already in the program. So let's dive in. The first question this week is intermittent fasting a good option for women over 30? Because most of you guys are over 30 who are in the program or in your 40s. It's kind of where we're all at in life. So I don't think there is a good or bad option necessarily for anybody. So unfortunately, with a lot of the questions specific like this, where you're asking like one specific way of eating, is it good or bad for me? It really is going to depend on the person. I like to look at everything this way. First, if you are not sticking to the plan, then it doesn't matter what I give you. Like, it doesn't matter if I say intermittent fasting is the most optimal thing you can do right now for you. And you're like, I can't stick to it, then don't do it. Okay. If on the flip side, intermittent fasting helps you be more consistent, let's say, for example, with a calorie deficit, so you just kind of skip breakfast and don't start eating till lunchtime, and that really helps you, that's excellent. And if you can't get in a deficit eating throughout the day from the morning, then I would say then fast because that's working well for you. So that's the bigger picture I like to look at first. What can you stick to? Does this way of eating help you stick to things, or does it actually make it worse for you? Do you enjoy it? Do you not enjoy it? So that's always what I like to look at, is that kind of macro view on things. Like, can we actually stick to it this way? Is it helping you? Do you like it? First and foremost. Okay. Because it's not really a right or wrong way to eat necessarily. If you can't stick to the optimal things, then there's no point in doing them because you can't stick to it. It's not going to get your result anyway. So, with that being said, the only thing to consider with intermittent fasting is, especially as we age, is that you are not then getting your protein intake evenly distributed throughout the entire day. Your body does need, it's the one macronutrient that we can't like hoard for one meal or two meals. Our bodies benefit the most from getting protein intermittently throughout the day. So over a course of 3 or 4 meals, like we want to get that protein spike, get protein intake, to promote muscle protein synthesis, which is basically our body kind of repairing itself and producing proteins. That's what we want to do. That's kind of the most optimal thing to do. Okay. So essentially, we have to consider is fasting reducing one, your overall protein intake for the day? Is it only allowing you to get 2 meals a day or 2 hits of protein? And is that going to hinder your ability to keep muscle or build muscle over time? And is that like splitting hairs for some people, right? So we have to look at it that way. And if, as we age, especially as women, we lose muscle every year as we age. So when we lose muscle, that when we're older, then we're more prone to falls and losing strength and possibly things like osteoporosis long term and all sorts of stuff. So we want to keep muscle as we age. It's going to help with our long-term health and ability to move our bodies and move in a safe way and prevent falls and things like that. So if it does hinder you from being able to maintain muscle mass and or build muscle at points in time, and you're noticing that you're not really seeing that, then that could be something to consider. That's the only thing I would consider. And I would say, in my opinion, I would recommend that unless you love fasting, you don't fast. And or if you don't really want to eat a big breakfast and you just get some protein in the morning at least, just so you are really maximizing that. We're looking at long-term health here, not necessarily just short-term body composition goals. And also too, obviously we need enough protein to sustain muscle, which is going to give us that toned look, right? This is what we want. So we do need to build muscle to look toned, quote unquote. So just something to consider. So at the end of the day, do what you like and enjoy what works for you, but also is aligned with your long-term goals. So I think that's important, an important way to look at it. So again, there's no like yes or no. It's a bit gray. I know it's a little vague on the side of things, but that's when I would look at you specifically as a person, an individual, your lifestyle, your goals, your schedule, and does fasting work better for you or not? How much muscle do you have right now or not? We kind of have to look at things as a whole picture for that individual person, but they're just some things that you could consider for yourself. Okay, next question is, how do I eat to support my energy levels throughout the day? Well, we have to look at it this way. The amount of calories. So calories in general are units of energy. It's our body's way of utilizing energy, how many calories we're getting. So first and foremost, look at your total calorie intake for the day. If your energy levels are quite low all the time, and this is me talking like not having crazy hormone imbalances or anything like that, okay? Because that then also plays a role in energy and how we feel. But looking at it from a nutrition perspective and units of energy coming are calories, which come from food. You need to make sure you're not under eating. If you're eating like 1,200 calories a day, you're going to feel like crap and have low energy because you're not giving your body enough fuel. So you have to look at that. If you're trying to increase energy in general, then it may be, and you're someone who constantly is trying to be in a deficit and dieting and restricting, then it may be uh, important for you to go into more of a health and maintenance phase initially and build on that and increase your food and focus on strength training and changing body composition that way and not dive straight into a fat loss. Because when we do take calories away with fat loss, even though some people will say, oh, I lost weight and I feel great, more energy. Yes, that can happen. But long term, towards the end of your deficit, you'll start to feel low energy and a bit sluggish and tired because you're not fueling your body and you're probably training and moving more too. So there's like a energy gap there. So that would be the first thing to look at. If they're really quite low, what's your calorie intake and does that need to increase? And then secondly, if you're noticing that you are, say, tired at different times of the day versus others, then we have to look at meal distribution. So are you going too long without eating? Are you only eating a couple meals a day or just having like one main meal and some snacks? Like that's not enough. So we want to look at meal structure, how you structure your meals. Are they frequent? Are you getting food in every 4 to 5 hours, for example? And then what they're comprised of. Are they balanced meals? Are you just eating carbs all day, for example? So and the quality of food too, making sure we get enough nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. So there's a lot of things that come into play. So they're the two things I would initially look at is your calorie intake and then how we distribute that and where that's kind of coming from in terms of food choices for the most part. And then lastly, if you're doing all of that and you're still kind of feeling off, then for all women, I always recommend making sure you're getting full female hormone panel blood work done like once or twice a year just to see where things are at. Because if your hormones are off, then that's going to make you feel a certain way too. So it's just good to paint the whole picture. And once you have the information, you can then tackle it. You don't want to be playing a guessing game all the time, right? Some of us are like, oh, I think it might be this. No, just go get checked. And then we know for sure what's going on. Okay. But good rule too is if your hormones are very out of whack, obviously depending on what that is, it's always good to be in a health and maintenance phase. Taking calories away might not help that situation. So we just have to look at kind of everything to tackle that. So hopefully that gives you guys some more things to consider with that question. Okay, next one is how can I stop labeling foods as good or bad and enjoy food again? So this sounds like someone who's coming from a history of rules around food. I understand this very, very well. This was me many, many years ago. Like everything was good food, bad food. This is good for me. This is bad for me, bad for me. And we've seen it where it's like processed foods are bad and this food is bad and this food is good. It's like, well, no, food is food. It's just a matter of how we view food is really important. So this is very black or white thinking, very all or nothing thinking, which we have to get rid of first and foremost. So instead of labeling foods as good or bad, you literally just have to change the way you phrase that. And instead of looking at foods as good or bad, they're more just foods that are higher in nutrients and foods that are lower in nutrients. So, for example, an apple, you might be like, that's a good food. It's like, well, no, it's just high in nutrients. And then let's say chocolate bar, it's not necessarily bad for you. It's just lower in nutrients, maybe higher in sugar, for example. But your body takes both in terms of the calorie intake. Just one's got more vitamins, minerals, fiber, the other one doesn't. Okay. So we have to stop looking at food like that. Food is food, and we want to make sure our bodies are getting enough fiber, enough vitamins, minerals, our macronutrients. We want to make sure we're getting a balance of everything. And it doesn't mean that then you can't enjoy the ice cream or the chocolate bar. It's just a matter of, all right, I want to have a balance of that so that I do feel my best, but I still can enjoy things too. So food isn't good or bad. Food is just food and it's high nutrient or low nutrient type of food. And that's really it. So if you're trying to fuel your body well and feel really good, then it's like, well, I'm probably going to choose the more nutrient dense food most of the time. Doesn't mean I can't have the other foods too. So that's the first way to start reframing your thinking. And then something that can be helpful with this is to write a list of what are some foods that I feel are really bad or in my mind are bad for me and write a list of what they are. Could be anything. Let's call it, say, ice cream or I don't know, like Oreos or something like that. And they're triggering for you to have in the house. Maybe you overeat on them or you think, and then you feel guilty and you think they're bad. You get rid of them. You never have them around. So, what can be a little helpful exercise with this is intentionally adding one of those foods in every single day with a meal. Let's say I'm going to add 2 Oreos every day with lunch or three, like whatever number, it doesn't matter. Um, and intentionally add it in until you go, oh, I feel really good. I'm eating really nutrient dense meals. And then I'm having some Oreos with it and I actually feel great. So it's something like that. And actually intentionally adding that food in can be very helpful to make you see, oh, nothing bad happens if I do this. Like it's okay. I'm still eating really well overall. Like what's the big picture? It's just like one bad meal is not going to make you unhealthy. Just like one good meal is not going to make you really healthy all of a sudden if everything else has been crap. So we have to look at it that way. So that's how we start to practice that. And that's all, it's all practice, right? It's just exercises that help us practice. A lot of where you guys come from is coming from breaking all those food rules and making sure, like, really just reframing your thoughts. because we come from that. This was good. This was bad. Like eat like this, not like this, and blah, blah, blah. And still the fitness industry and the internet right now is an absolute shiz show for the most part. I feel like it's actually getting worse. So don't get yourself caught up in all the noise. Just be like, food's food. Let me just eat really well and balanced as much as possible. And I can add in the fun stuff. And that's literally as simple as it gets. I know the hard part is implementing it. Like, how do I actually implement that? And that's where having support and a coach can come in really handy. But that's where I come in for you guys in the program. But we want to kind of really start to break through those old mentalities. Like that's a big thing. We're kind of rewiring the way you see food and the way you see things and see yourself. So that takes time and practice. Okay. Okay. This is a big one, I think, for everybody. It comes up a lot. So how do I stay motivated when progress feels slow? Because it's going to feel slow sometimes, whether you're in a fat loss phase, whether you're in a reverse diet or health phase. Sometimes it can feel like watching paint dry, is like how I describe it. So how do we stay motivated? And believe me when I tell you that you're not always going to feel motivated. I do not always feel motivated to go work out or to do all my basic stuff I'm trying to do every day. Just really, most of the time, I'm not motivated to do it. So I understand how that feels, and it's normal to feel that way. So what you need to do is two things. So, first and foremost, what helps with the days where you don't feel motivated is you still do the stuff. It's like, all right, well, that's easy to say. Yeah. But you want to set yourself non negotiables every day and every week, your bare minimum. What's my worst case scenario look like? And you have to do the thing. You just have to be like, this is like for me, I'm not going wherever I can help it. My bare minimum workout days is 2 days a week. Can't get my words out properly today, but you know what I mean? So 2 days a week is like the bare minimum. I'll make myself go to the gym. If I get in 3 or 4, great. But 2 is like non-negotiable. I will go if I feel, no matter what I feel like, unless I'm sick, right? So that is my non-negotiable. So you have to set those boundaries with yourself, and non-negotiables look different to everybody. So that's first and foremost. You got to do the stuff, and what's the bare minimum stuff you have to still do on any given day, whether you feel like it or not. And then when progress feels slow, what can be so helpful with this, and when I typically hear you guys say progress, I automatically, for the most part, most of you think the number on the scale when that feels slow. So you very much need to start keeping a list of your weekly wins that are non-scale victories, non-scale wins, non-scale related. So anything that's a win or that's been an improvement that's not related to the number on the scale or body measurements of any kind. That is huge, because some of you come to me and go, I've made no progress this week. And then we go through your check-in and I'm like, hang on a second, but you've made so much progress with your mindset or with your habits or how you make food, make your meals or your food choices, or in so many other areas. I could list like 10 things you maybe had made progress on in that week that you feel like nothing is happening. And sometimes, and for a lot of the time, you need to set that foundation, and you're practicing skills that maybe are not reflecting on the scale right away. But once you actually implement those things consistently, the scale starts to move. I actually just had a call with a client who we went through this exact scenario when she started. It's like the first couple months, things were moving slowly and she was like trying to get the hang of everything. And all of a sudden, one day the switch kind of flicked, and it all clicked for her. And she's like, hang on, everything I've been doing and now feels easy. And her scale progress just started to consistently go down. So I promise you, like those two things, if you implement them, um, no matter what, every single week, it will help you tremendously. Last question. How do I cultivate a positive body image when I'm not at my goal weight? Okay, this is great because obviously when we start, uh, let's say fat loss journey, you're not going to be at your goal weight for a while. But you can absolutely start to improve your body image from day one, because even from my own experience, I've been so lean, like super shredded when I used to compete in the bodybuilding contests, especially at the pro level. And I would still feel terrible about myself despite being so lean. So sometimes no amount of body fat, high or low, can make you feel good about yourself. Like our worth is not tied to our bodies, and that's something that we really need to start to understand and put into practice. That hey, how I look doesn't reflect the person I am. But obviously, if you want to look leaner and feel fitter and be training for life and longevity, then you're going to look better too. And those are all important things. It's great to have those goals. So I digress. Going back to the positive, I don't think it's necessarily important to focus on having a positive body image. Everything about my body has to be positive. I don't think that's necessarily helpful. Um, because I don't think we're all realistically positive about our bodies all the time. I think it's okay to not love everything about yourself. I think it's unrealistic to ask that of ourselves, to love everything about ourselves every given moment. But the things that we maybe don't like as much, we can maybe practice being neutral about. So it's like, oh, okay, instead of saying like I hate my thighs, it's like, well, I don't love my thighs. They're not where I want to be yet, but I'm okay with it right now. Like it's okay. I'm a work in progress. That's more of a neutral approach to it. So trying to come from a place of being neutral with the things that we don't love and being like, it's a work in progress. I'm making small changes and appreciating that can be very, very helpful as opposed to super positive body image versus super negative. Okay. I love this one exercise that I really love that helps with this. And it's called a body functionality exercise. So we get so caught up in our appearance and how our body looks all the time that we forget to appreciate how our body functions for us on any given day. So there's an exercise I do with everyone in the program when they come to that point and they need it, where we do run through that and we run through specific things about our bodies in different categories and how our body serves us on every given day in different ways. And some of you guys in the program have done that. Some of you have not yet. And if you want to do it and we haven't done it yet, just let me know in your next check-in and we can definitely add that in for you. Or if you're already tackling a lot of stuff, I'll sprinkle it in later once we're kind of gone through the meat of some of the things that you have to get done initially. But it's fantastic because we'll forget how our body functions for us. It shows up every day in different ways. So I think that's a very powerful tool to not just do once, but do repeatedly over time, because I think we all fall into that trap sometimes of forgetting, even though sometimes you might be in a good place of, oh, I feel good about my body, I'm appreciating things. And then we all have our moments. Even me, I've been practicing this for years. And some days I have a moment where I look in the mirror and I think, some negative thoughts, they happen. And then I have to remind myself of those things or redo that exercise for myself. And it changes over time too. So I think that's an important thing that you can do is go over body functionality, practicing being neutral about your body image. And then that will help you feel much better where you're at right now. And then when you do get to your goal weight, it'll just be even more amplified and amazing, which is fantastic. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. Those were some fantastic questions. If you guys have any follow-ups on that, drop them in the group if you're already in my program. And if you guys are listening in from the replay anywhere, don't hesitate to reach out to me via Instagram, DM me, or if you have any more questions about this. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.